Well, I'm with Darius Pearce in his jewellery shop in the centre of St Helier. Now, just to put it into perspective, your business isn't local only. You've got an international business, don't you? You buy in stuff and you sell stuff internationally.
Yes.
So you are in contact with people around the world. That's what
absolutely. You can't run a business in Jersey these days without some... Obviously, back in the 1980s, we had a fair amount of visitors coming over to Jersey who brought in the necessary money to sustain businesses locally. But because the tourists aren't coming, we now have to go to them. And I'm quite willing to go anywhere around the world. Fiji, South America. There's very few countries that I haven't sent to, mainly Central Africa, in fact.
Do you get much feedback from that business about what's going on in those places?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, well, from selling on Amazon UK, I know that a lot of the sellers on Amazon in the UK are very annoyed with Jersey because of the way that Amazon works. Every time they sell something to Jersey, they're losing money. And obviously, if the sellers in the UK are losing money selling things to Jersey, how can local businesses compete with that?
Why is that? Why are they losing money?
Because Amazon won't. Because of the difference in cost in shipping, and Amazon won't let you set a separate price for Jersey. You have to set one price for the whole island. And Amazon has these rules, so you can only cancel so many orders before Amazon take your account off you. So, I mean, it's a regular source of complaint on the Amazon seller forums of how much Jersey is costing sellers in the UK.
So how does that affect you in your business?
I mean, I do sell things on Amazon to people in Jersey, believe it or not. I do explain to people that if you come into the shop, it's cheaper in the shop than it is on Amazon. Obviously, that you don't get the fancy packaging on Amazon. That sort of covers the postage, but... you're also, if you come into the shop, you're not paying Amazon to sell it to you. Amazon charge me a certain amount, which I obviously pass on to the customers who buy through Amazon. But it seems to be in Jersey people's heads that things are cheaper on Amazon. Things are cheaper on Amazon, but only if they're lower quality. It's trying to get through that. I don't know where that idea's developed.
One of the shops just around the corner from the electrical supplier, Fortuna, I think the guy was in the paper the other day saying the cost of fridges and stuff is going to go up to 15% because of Brexit in Jersey. Can you see any logic in that?
Brexit is being used as an excuse for a lot of things. Basically, what Brexit's about is do we want a global world or do we want a local world? If we have a global world, then there's going to be a very, very few people right at the top of the pyramid who have become immensely rich and everybody else is going to be impoverished. In order to really build a good society, so if Britain leaves the European Union, Britain is going to have to build a self-sustaining economy. Now, the British dream is that you don't actually have to work. You own enough houses and you have enough people renting off you that you can live the life of luxury. That is the British dream. The American dream is slightly different, but that's the British dream. But if we have a self-sustaining economy with no immigrants and very few imports, the first thing that's going to happen is the GDP of Britain will be halved. Same thing happened in Iceland, but that's not a bad thing because it's not real GDP, it's government activity, it's banking, it's all things that actually are of no value to humanity. We could get rid of it and nobody would notice any difference. But what that does mean is that British people will then have to make their own shoes. They'll have to make their own clothes. They'll have to grow their own food. And I'm not sure that the British people really want to work.
And there isn't much scope to make things in Jersey, is there?
But Jersey was always based on producing goods. If you look back, not quite in my lifetime, but before my lifetime, there's a large number of products which are globally famous, such as Jersey Royals and Jersey tomatoes, which we grew and we exported. And that, yes, we had the tourism but the basis of the economy was always about production.
But a very small population.
But obviously you can't sustain a very large population in such a small area on that.
I mean, as you know, I'm running this particular campaign, and I read your blog, if they call it a blog, your Facebook stuff on economics, and I can't understand most of it because it's way above my head. But people predict everything's going to be wonderful, and somebody else predicts, and they've got knowledge. They are economists, and they've got all the training that is necessary. And then somebody said it's wonderful, and the next person said it's going to be terrible. It's going to be doom and gloom. have you got a view on it? Have you actually formed a view?
Well, think of the economy at the moment. We've just had interest rates go down another 0.25% to the lowest that they have ever been. We have people lending money to governments on the understanding that in 20 years' time they will get less money back than they've lent to the government. And people are willingly doing this. Does that make any sense to anybody? I'll lend you £10. Oh, you lend me £10 and in 20 years' time I'll pay you £5 back. Does that seem like a logical transaction to enter into? And yet there's $13 trillion worldwide of money which is being lent to governments on that basis. The whole economy is insane. None of it makes any sense, and it's all being caused by the excessive money printing. And if we want to look at the effects of money printing, you only have to look at what happened in Zimbabwe, where they ended up with $100 trillion bill, and that wouldn't buy you a loaf of bread.
The other day, a few weeks ago, Philip Balash came back to report to scrutiny on EU, the Brexit move, the UK had decided. And he gave a report back. And one of the first things he said, is there's a definite propositions, 2 propositions. And one of them, and I couldn't understand it, and I still don't know, was to create a banking authority of some sort. Have you any idea what he was getting at? He said it wasn't going to be a Bank of Jersey. Any idea what a banking authority would do for Jersey?
So it's not going to be a bank.
It's not going to be a bank.
But we already have a regulator.
It sounded like he wanted it to be the Bank of England for Jersey, but
not a bank.
Not a bank.
That sounds like one of Philip Balash's normal, usual, ill-thought-through ideas.
I know you're a great admirer of him. The other thing he wanted was to appoint Crown officers locally.
Well, I do happen to know, having met a lady who worked at the Home Office at the time when England enforced on Jersey that all positions of Crown officers must be advertised, because previously it was all just done behind the scenes. Well, that's your job, Nick. Your dead man's shoes, up we go, up the ladder, all the way to the top. And obviously Philip Balash only rose to the top because he got on the bottom rung of the ladder at such a young age, and everybody above him was much older, so he was bailiff for a long time.
I do remember when, I think it was the Labour Party, were actually at the stage of advertising the Lieutenant Governor's job, and they wanted to put in the ex-Speaker of the House of Commons, who I think had been a dancing girl, and there was a bit of speculation, and that got quashed. That didn't happen. So they stick to their ex-military people to be Lieutenant Governors, but it's a strange process.
It is.
Anyway, it's not to do with Brexit as such.
No.
We better get back to ourselves.
Okay.
Well, what do you... I mean, obviously, I'm desperately trying to understand, to predict, to imagine what will happen in Jersey. Philip talks... He wants things to stay as they are. He wants Protocol 3 to carry on. But obviously there can't be a Protocol 3 if the structure is, as the UK breaks away from it, the whole structure is different. And the European Union won't want us to have a relationship on Protocol 3 lines. So there must be another relationship. I can't imagine what that relationship will be. And I can't imagine any other relationship they could create which will allow Jersey to survive as it does.
Why does Jersey need...
Well, it's
We've got to look at the entire global financial system. There's a large chance that the entire global financial system will crash, certainly the American part of it, because China's issuing a new global reserve currency, which hopefully will be gold-backed. Once that's done, you can either have worthless dollars which are backed by nothing, or you can have this new basket of currencies which is going to be gold-backed. So at the end of the day, even if the entire system of derivatives collapses, you will still have a lump of gold which will never change, which will always have value, etc., etc., etc. We moved off the gold standard in 1971, and since then, the quality of everybody's life, everybody's gotten poorer, basically, and that's one of the main reasons they wanted to move off of those, because it was stopping the rich people from getting even richer, because it meant that gold had to be in circulation.
Well, of course, you're in the right business as a jeweller to be involved with gold, and Jersey used to have dozens of jewellery shops. They don't have now, they've mostly disappeared.
It used to have over 200, but that was mainly to service the tourist industry. There was a number of mistakes that the British government made in the 1970s, such as setting capital controls, which didn't apply to Jersey, and so you weren't allowed to take money out of England, but you could take it out of England to Jersey, and that basically is what grew the finance industry in the first place. It was a creation of the British government, that then the whole trust thing, it's, things have developed. The things have moved on from what the financial services that Jersey's now offered, and as we can see, the rich people have moved on to new things, and they're not using Jersey for those new things. So all we've got is the old customers, and the trouble is the relying on old customers is that old customers die, their trusts get extinguished, and we're on a downward spiral, and we have been.
Do you get many European Union customers coming here into the shop, tourist type?
We do. I have some regular French customers. We have a few from Germany. Obviously, they're more day trippers. The French have a different attitude to spending than the British people. The British people tend to buy cheap. You know, they'll go to H. Samuel and buy the low quality jewellery because the price is low, whereas the French tend to appreciate quality more and will go for the higher value, better quality items that are going to last maybe more than a lifetime rather than something they're going to have to replace.
I mean, obviously they have a very, they're appreciative of good design, but are they buying it for design or for the investment value? What are the French really after?
Well, in terms of my bullion sales, which since Brexit have, I even had to write to the JFSC to see whether I need to become regulated or not, because sales have been so strong since the 6th of June or the 7th of June that I'm in danger of, well, I'm just making sure I'm not crashing any limits that I shouldn't be.
Really? And that's from European sales?
It's mainly from English people.
Oh, right.
As I say, so last month I took maybe 4 months takings in a month on bullion. It's
is that a sustainable trend? I mean,
yes, because money is decreasing. When I was young and you could buy a Mars bar for 10p and now they're 80p, it took a long time for that Mars bar to get from 10p to 15p, but now it seems to go up 5p every six months. So the value of money is declining faster and faster and faster and faster. So the value of gold, because there's still only so much gold in the world, as they print more money, the value of gold has to go up. At the moment they're jiggery, pokery, playing with the market, fixing the market, holding down the price. But eventually everything has to collapse. Deutsche Bank's in trouble, Montepaschi's in trouble. Deutsche Bank has $70 trillion worth of derivatives, which is where you give someone a mortgage and then you sell the rights to the mortgage to someone else, or you buy an option on gold, or you buy an option on a stock. And that whole, the global financial system has to crash. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And at the moment we're looking at October as a possible date, because this new currency is going to completely remove the US dollar from global trade.
Well, how do they put it into the world circulation? How are the Chinese proposing to do that?
Well, they make the offer, and then other countries will choose to use it. Now, if you think of who produces all the goods in the world, it's not the Americans.
No.
It's the Chinese. And if the Chinese say, if you want to buy our goods, you have to use this currency, what's everybody going to do?
I mean, the Chinese example is so extraordinary. In such a short period of time, they've created such a vast economy. It is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Well, if you actually look at it on a historical basis, China is still not back to its historical average as a percentage of the global GDP. It has a long way to go. There's a lot of people in China. If we go back to just before the sort of Hong Kong, when the period when Britain was selling opium to China to get the silver, because China then would only trade in silver, so Britain had to sell opium to the Chinese to get the silver to buy the goods. And of
course, people in Jersey forget we were involved in all those trades. We were involved in the opium trade, we were involved in the tea trade, we were involved in all these ex-colonial type activities. We were very much
a seafaring island.
That's right. So we've been through all those stages. I mean, the island has survived. This island's not going anywhere, but the population fluctuates greatly here. It does. I mean, it's on an expansion at the moment, and the policy is to further expand it. Well, the policy.
Guernsey say their population's coming down.
It's extraordinary.
From what
yes.
I judge from the people I see, the people I speak to who say they're leaving the island, and I think what do they count as population? I think you'll find there's a lot of retired people who will go away for 9 months of the year and come back for 3. Now, are they living here, or are they not living here? How do they count these figures? I actually think the population is declining. And I mean, it makes sense if you can turn your heating off for the winter and go and live for 9 months somewhere else in the world and not pay Jersey Electricity's electricity bill. Then why wouldn't you do it?
Well, that's it. You need a population here who is going to, or that is going to pay for the new hospital and the new airport and all these things.
But do we need
a
them?
resident or somebody's got to pay for it.
Do
if they
we
want
need them?
Oh, those are valid questions. Those are valid questions.
If in the 1980, I was speaking to someone who was a purser on the Sea Link boat. And he said the Sea Link boat sailed 3 times a day. There was 1,000 people every time. So that was 3,000 people going through the harbour. And we're not talking about the harbour we've got now. We're talking about Victoria Pier. And they all came through a little wooden hut. And they were all happy. And they all went straight down to the pub. And they bought their beer and they bought their cigarettes. And they bought their jewellery. And they went back to England. They had a wonderful holiday. We've got an airport which is 5 times the size that the airport's ever been before. And yet it's not servicing as many people as the old airport used to service.